Hey guys, welcome back to the Happy Martian Dragon Hammer cast with myself, Chase, and Sam as we continue to follow Andy through a sealed event that took place at Fantasy Flight on 3/29. Andy coming off of a very strong win with his first game, and he is playing uh, Jack, who is a local player, and I've had a chance to play him a couple of times, and he's a good guy. He's fun to play. He has the right attitude when he comes into a game.
Yeah, and coming off a win in his first game that was never really close, Andy in control the whole way. Um, we saw the real strength of his deck in that first round, being able to really crank out Amber production. And he looks like he may have met his match here, as Jack, going first, has started with a terror to gain 2 quick Amber.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Andy trying to throw down a terror of his own, not being able to capitalize on it as much. However, he is able to put down a succubus, which is going to act as a chain as long as it's on the board, limiting Jack to 5 cards in hand. Andy throwing down control of the week again, very, very early in the game. I did not hear what he called, but this could backfire on him.
Yeah, although with the succubus on board, an opportunity to protect it with that control of the weak, to say, I will deny your ability to use that terror to kill my succubus.
Looks like
Naming Untamed, we see Cooperative Hunting and Stampede getting very little value off of those cards, and only being able to draw one afterwards.
That was a risky move, but I think it paid off. Now this is a situation we saw Andy has the Hand of Dis in hand. This is a situation where I do not like to see that card, simply because his opponent only has the one creature. It looks relatively unlikely that he's going to be able to drop 2 more in one turn, especially with that succubus chaining him.
Certainly, one that you want to get out of your hand as quickly as possible, either to kill something
Mhm.
or simply to discard it, knowing that you're unlikely to come back to dis with only 2 creatures on board. But with 3 and even a 4th Brabnar creature on the way, after this Sound the Horns resolves, we'll see that he's able to get some value with his Hand of Dis once again.
Yeah, pulling a Ganger Chieftain off of the Sound the Horns, this is a great card to get. It not only is it going to get him another creature, but it's going to allow him the ability to use either Lorm or Flame Fist, but it looks like he's going for the Troll to get rid of the Succubus. Good play. That is indeed a good play. The Troll will have the ability to reap and heal the damage that it just took.
Control at 8 power, a threat as soon as it hits the board, and using that Ganger Chieftain to take advantage of that high power right away.
Hmm.
Removing the 3 power Succubus and remaining at 5 power, still a threat to kill anything on Andy's side.
Yeah,
But the Hunting Witch not killed.
that is a very difficult decision. One that I'm not sure there is a right answer to whether or not you take out the Succubus or the Hunting Witch. I think that is an extremely situational play, depending on where your opponent is and where you guys are in the game together.
And Andy, interestingly, choosing to exhaust 2 Brabnar creatures and 1 Dis creature. Disincentivizing Jack from playing Dis on this turn, as he now has no active Dis creatures on board. An alternative might have been to leave that terror up, giving him a choice between 2 bad options with 1 active Dis creature and only 1 active Brabnar creature. But still with plenty of tools either way to finally remove that Hunting Witch, which has to be a high priority for Jack.
Oh, absolutely. The Hunting Witch is not something you can just leave on the table every time Andy is able to play a creature. He gets an Amber. Unfortunately, As Andy thumbs through his hand, it doesn't look like he's able to capitalize on that. Jack looks like he went Brobnar, dropping down a Valdir and a Rogue Ogre. That's always a fun one to say.
Yeah, the Rogue Ogre, a strange card, reads if you've played exactly one card this turn at the end of your turn, fully heal Rogue Ogre and capture one amber. Something that triggers very seldom.
It, I have found that it triggers a lot more in decks that want to build a large board presence and then utilize those tools. I know I myself have one or two decks in which I would love to see a Rogue Ogre. Unfortunately, those are also the decks with 20 plus creatures in which all I want to do is drop all of my creatures and then utilize that house for the next 3 or 4 turns to either control the board or reap to gain Ember.
Yeah, and certainly the plan that Jack seems to be on here is the control the board plan. Andy dropping down Mac the Knife, Mace's Asp, his first turn playing Shadows. We see a Subtle Maw and the Long Fused Mines back on the board, seeing Jack go wide, moving out to 5, 6 creatures on board. There was Long Fused Mines positioned to be very effective.
This was a great time for him to play Long Fuse Mines. And I've noticed that Andy really likes to uh, build up the cards in his hand until he's able to drop 3 or 4 cards out of one house, really capitalizing on everything that he's got. Mac the Knife is a great option. He is essentially a Seeker Needle with elusive that can be used anytime. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's able to capitalize on that. Jack looks like he's going Dis, dropping another Terror.
An interesting choice to move into Dis with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Brobnar creatures on board, making the choice to not play Brobnar. He has a fear, so he will be able to remove some creatures. We'll see what he chooses to get rid of. If I'm looking at that board, I'm seeing the Asp and the Mac as primary targets for that removal.
Looks like he went with the Mac. I think I probably would have made the same call, and then I would just give up the Terror to get rid of the Asp, because that is not something I want to see on the board for very long.
We'll see if he remembers to use that Terror. He's already started trying to ready up his cards. Seems to have forgotten that he does in fact have a disc creature available. And he's asking about exactly what you talked about. Can I use this Terror to kill that Asp? How does Skirmish work? Andy explaining yes. That Terror attacks, they will trade. And when you see an Asp hit the board, you almost always know that it's going to kill some creatures. The question is, how many? How much damage am I going to allow this thing to do? And with the Subtle Maw on the board, and knowing that Andy has at least one Shadows card in his hand, we know that he will be happy to move into Shadows on his next turn to get one creature for free with that Asp and put that Mac right back up down on the table.
Yeah, very interesting choice by Jack to not use the Terror to get rid of the Asp. That is a trade I would have made any day of the week, because simply because of the fact that you get to control what that creature is getting rid of. And at this point, unfortunately, Jack has just given the reins to Andy, saying, hey, take your tool, use it wherever you want, I don't care. And I think that's going to come back to bite him in the asp, so to speak.
I think you're right about that. We see the Long Fuse Mines getting triggered right away. Not taking out many creatures, but spreading some damage around, creating some targets for the Relentless Whispers, as Andy will be able to steal. In this game, again, he's taken the first key, generating Amber much more slowly than in his first game, despite being able to keep a Hunting Witch on the board for I believe 3 turns, including the one that it came down, and Lost in the Woods, pulling premium removal right out of Jack's hand
Yep. Andy now
off
going
of
to
that
show.
subtle maul.
Yep. Andy now going to show Jack why he should not have left that asp on the table.
And making the choice to kill the Brobnar creature, or the disc creature here. Oh no, he's taking out the Valder
Yep. That
and
was
all the
the.
creatures on the board. There's still the Terror, I suppose. So leaving a mix of creatures on the board. 3 Brobnar, 1 disc.
Interesting choice to get rid of the Valder. I think I probably would have gone for the Troll. I like to get rid of creatures that have the ability to heal themselves, making Troll a very tasty target.
Yeah, Troll always a valuable target. And as an 8 power creature, one that can be very difficult to remove. That Valder, it may get some damage in, but it'll fight itself out eventually.
Hmm.
But Jack coming right back with a couple more high priority targets, throwing down 2 Pit Demons. He'll use that Library of the Damned to archive another card. And we see him with a Screaming Cave. We'll see if he chooses to use it here, or if there's something else in his deck that he needs to dig for. And right now he's looking at his Archon card thinking, is
Yes.
there anything that I haven't seen yet that's going to get me out of this position, or
Yep.
is it time to shuffle these terrors and these sundry Bravnar creatures back in?
I was just gonna say that looked exactly like what he was doing. We haven't seen Jack play Untamed yet, so I think if he chooses not to, we are gonna see a lot of Untamed relatively soon.
Choosing to reap again with that terror, continuing to give Andy opportunities to take advantage of his various shadow resources. We see that Andy has no shadows cards in hand, and maybe Jack banking on the fact that he's unlikely to have 2 big shadows turns back to back.
Well, unfortunately, with the board that Andy has right now, I don't think that he has to have anything in hand to go shadows to make Jack pay. And just like we said, Andy going shadows, reaping with bad penny, trying to figure out where he wants to put that damage with Mac the knife.
Yeah, and Andy realizing his mistake right away. He uh, he was thinking that he would use Mac to kill Penny. Of course, safer to simply reap. Allow a bad Penny to stay on the board, and the Asp to kill the Pit Demon, but he will be leaving up a Pit Demon.
Yeah, I
And
think.
Jack at only 5 Amber, he's in a safe position to play this slowly, to continue to do some board control, and to reap for Amber. Feeling confident in the answers that he has in his hand, and
Oof,
pulling that War
huge War
Drummer
Drummer.
with those damaged Bravnar creatures on board.
That's got to be really painful for Jack to see go away. Andy on 5 Ember, Jack on 5 Ember. Difference of a key between them.
And Jack, despite having had firm control of the board, has allowed Andy to move into an even position. But with 2 Hunting Witches, um,
I
Jack will quickly be able to generate some amber. We'll see how many more untamed creatures he has to capitalize.
Yeah, I really hope that he has. Well, we do see the Nature's Call. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any other untamed creatures. So just about the only thing that he's going to be able to do is bounce a Hunting Witch. Um, that's not going to be enough for him to make up some lost ground. Choosing instead to send all of Andy's Shadows creatures back to his hand.
And
Discarding Save the
discarding.
Pack. Very smart move right there. Especially after seeing his War Drummer disappear.
And leaving 2 Hunting Witches on the board, and Andy with 2 cards of 2 different houses has no available resources to remove both of those. Jack saying, you can kill one, but on my next turn, I'll be able to play Untamed or Brabnar or Dis. and potentially capitalize on one of those hunting witches again. And we've seen removal already from Andy. We've seen him already use his Relentless Whispers.
I don't think we've seen Lost in the Woods yet. Um, However, we do know that he does have too much to protect in hand, which would put him at a key and allow him to get those creatures back on the board. I think
Yeah,
I think whatever way Andy goes, he's gonna have answers that will at least put him in a good position.
we see him choosing to use Untamed on this turn, and I suspect that he will allow this key through.
I think he
Here's
will.
his Lost in the Woods. And he's going to use that as removal for those hunting witches, saying, I'd rather send these hunting witches back than send back one hunting witch, excuse me, and one pit demon. Maybe a missed play there.
I actually think that was probably the right play. He was able to get the pit demon uh, off the board um, and get those hunting witches. The hunting witches really don't do any good until they are on the board. The pit demon is always a threat.
Sure.
And
Of course, with um, the Niffle Queen and the Lost in the Woods, he would have removed all three of those either way. It's a question of which ones go to the deck, which ones go to the discard pile.
mhm.
And with the Screaming Cave in play, there's very little difference between those two places.
Andy accidentally discarding an amber. He's making so much he can just throw it away. Andy's going to
Informing
check it.
Jack. Jack will make his first key. And those nocturnal maneuvers have been valuable in each time they've been played so far. We've seen him hitting 3 different creatures every time, and each time seriously impacting his opponent's opportunity to capitalize on the board state. Jack, who has had more creatures on board for most of this game, has had few opportunities to really use those.
Yeah, Andy has really been capitalizing on his ability to manipulate his opponent's board through various card effects, really punishing them for every single missed opportunity and every single missed play that they make. A great example of this is we saw 3 or 4 creatures fall to the asp because Jack was not willing to make the hard call and say, hey, I'm going to give up this creature to get rid of this tool that you have been beating me to death with.
Yeah, oftentimes seeing Jack make that choice to reap rather than to fight, and you have to wonder if his deck is one that is really built for that fast kind of play.
Hmm. A little bit
And a
of
second hand of this.
great use of fear. That is a great use of fear to send that dust imp back to the hand. Sending it away so that you don't have to deal with it for one more turn. It's not an oubliette, but it is a legitimate answer.
I see Andy sitting on a fistful of shadows over there. And we'll see if Jack will play Dis again, now with 2 terrors on the board, or if he'll opt to go back into Brabner. We've yet to see that Rogue Ogre trigger.
Hunting Witch coming down,
Going
Ancient
Untamed
War.
instead, and despite having 5 creatures on board, will not reap at all on this turn.
I think that was a bit of a missed play. Or, conversely, that might have actually been a pretty solid play. Andy having no creatures, Jack being able to say, hey, I'm going to take this Hunting Witch, throw it down, get at least 2 turns worth of use out of it. So I can not only get any amber off of my untamed cards, but maybe also my Bravnar or discards as well.
Yeah, And as that Hunting Witch will stick around a turn, and we've seen Jack put quite a few cards into his archives, we're going to wonder, how many creatures can he play this turn? This could be a huge turn for Jack. He's already seen the too much to protect go down. This is a perfect opportunity for a big play.
Yeah, if I were him, I would just try to throw down as many creatures as possible. I am extremely curious as to what he has been archiving. We have seen him do nothing but throw cards in there and barely even look at them. So I am hoping that he is able to capitalize on that. I do see the Tremor in hand out of Brobnar. Hopefully he will take this opportunity to capitalize on that using the 3 Brobnar cards on the board, in addition to the Tremor to stun Andy and hopefully make up some ground.
You know, these can be some of the trickiest situations to find yourself in as a player. With control of the board and under no threat by Andy's Amber, as he has only 3, um, there's a lot of flexibility in how Jack can choose to play this turn. He can go about this many different ways because Andy is presenting so few real threats to him right now.
Mhm.
And how you use these very flexible turns can go a long way to informing how those subsequent turns will play out. We see that
Absolutely.
he will choose Brabner and again will choose to reap. He's moving to 6 Amber.
Ah, follow the leader. Discarding follow the leader. Very interesting choice. I absolutely would have used that to potentially trade. Um, Again, trade an Asp or a Mac just to get him off the board.
And discarding both Tremor and Follow the Leader.
Tremor he used. Tremor he
Tremor he
used.
used. Those are stun counters, I say. Okay. And shuffling his discard pile into his deck. We've yet to see that Screaming Cave be used. And having moved through his deck, we know that he has that second Hunting Witch in hand.
And he just pulled that War Drummer back. That's good to see. Unfortunately, with that Rogue Ogre now sitting on an Ember, that's going to disincentivize him to do that.
And Andy, with one last job, he will purge his Shadows creatures and steal 3.
This is one of the very few times where I would actually consider using one last job for its intended purpose.
And a quick 4 Amber off of that card, moving into check himself and denying the key from Jack.
Andy has done a very good job of playing from behind yet playing ahead this entire game. He, in no way, shape, or form, has ever had control of the board, yet he has always had control of the game.
Yeah. And hard not to give some credit to Jack, as Jack has not utilized that board advantage to deny Andy the opportunity to play creatures to generate Amber. He has opted each turn to reap for a comparatively small amount of Amber, which has been taken from him over and over.
that is unfortunately what Shadows does, and Shadows does extraordinarily well. Looks like Andy's sitting on a good pile of discards. House cards, not discards.
And with most of his deck in his discard pile, he seems to have some good discards as well. We see him with a regrowth, and he spots that Hunting Witch in his discard pile. We see a second Rogue Ogre come down, an opportunity to capture 2,
As
if that's the
long,
only card that he plays this turn.
yep,
He reaps with his other Brabnar creatures,
And the irony
This could,
there to me is just absolutely delightful. The ability to capture 2 Ember just by playing 1 card and then doing what you wanted to do in the first place.
and he will.
Taking Andy
And,
off of his 3rd key.
and the ogre will heal.
Straight up telling Andy it's, I now have the ability to start dealing with your stuff wholesale. You got to deal with me now.
But Andy, knowing he can only take 2 from me. Can I get up to 8? Thinking if I can get to 8, I will likely win this game by 3 keys to 2. He'll find that hunting witch off of his regrowth as he goes back to 5 amber. And then 2 more Niflapes for 2 more amber as we see him going to 7.
Oh.
And
Checking.
if Jack can play just 1 card, he can capture 2 from Andy, taking him off check once again. Will he see that out? And if he can play just 1 Brabner creature, he will also be able to reap for quite a few, while triggering that Hunting Witch's ability.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if he spots that option.
I did promise Andy we would talk about this. Sam, you know what? This is the perfect opportunity for Jack to play.
What?
Bait and switch.
This is the time that you'd like to see it, but Jack will play Brabner once again. He'll reap for 4.
Unfortunately, I don't
Does
think
he
those.
have 1 Brabner
Yeah,
creature?
I don't think those rogue ogres are gonna to trigger off of what he's played.
I see a War Drummer in his hand. Playing that War Drummer will trigger his Hunting Witch as he moves to 6, but it will deny him his opportunity to capture with his Rogue Ogres as they'll return to his hand. I see a Sound the Horns
There you go. That's the 1 card that he
moving
needed.
to 6. But he
Oh,
plays the Valder.
Jack, why? You didn't have to do that. You just gave him the
and
game.
and gives away the game by playing the card off of Sound the Horns. And we hear him say, I think I may have just screwed myself. He says, that counts, doesn't it? Indeed it does.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, playing 2 cards does not count as playing 1 card.
Well, he was able to realize his mistake, which is the most important thing, and that's how we get better.
Yep, having made his mistake, he quickly concedes.
Yep. We did see the key charge and 1 other card.
So if I just would have not played Sound, I didn't think of that. I was like, that's my 1 card.
Yeah.
I'll get a thing for Hunting Witch.
So Andy now 2-0 in this event.
Very,
Taking the
very
first, yeah.
unfortunate turn of events for Jack. I feel for the guy. But
yeah, a mistake he's unlikely to make a second time.
No, absolutely not. All right, that was it for this game. Thank you very much. Stay tuned. The next one is right around the corner. We'll see you in a minute.